If this is not in the TV show, I am going to have a mental breakdown. That has to go in.
Hey everybody, this is Kat.
And this is Rachel.
And you're listening to the Smut Peddlers podcast, a show for people who love books, especially when there's smut. We discuss our likes, our dislikes, and share all our favorite moments with you.
Today we're talking about Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. So grab your favorite beverage and get ready to burn with us. Okay, part 9. We are still in our tandem read for Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn in the romantic order. We are covering Tower of Dawn chapter 36 through 42 and Empire of Storms chapter 52 to 56.
A little recap. The last 2 episodes we talked exclusively about Empire of Storms because we had a nice big chunk of...
2 big chunks in a row.
Yeah. 2 big things that happened. Or not 2 big things, but like a very large chunk of things that took place in that section. So a little recap to remind everyone where we left off in Tower of Dawn, too. Chaol and Yrene went and visited the library a second time because they were trying to look up they were using the guise of them looking up ways to help Chaol, but they also were looking into, there were some books on Vogue and things like that, and so they were trying to get a little bit more information. The head librarian was a little suspicious of them and were like, yeah, sure, sure. And then they went and had a very nice, like, romantic dinner together where they vowed to just every once in a while think about just be Chaol and just be Yrene in like a little moment, which I thought was very sweet. We have Nesryn and Sartaq, and they are looking into why rook eggs are going missing. And so the head... I almost said den mother. That is not correct.
I can hear him meowing.
Oh no. Rocky. My cat is meowing in the background. I apologize. He's trying to get into the office, but he's being a pain in the butt, so he's going to stay out there. Nesryn and Sartaq are trying to figure out where the rook eggs have been going, and a big thing with that is they're going and visiting a bunch of towers that used to be owned and operated by the Fae, who used to, like, I guess, live on the outskirts of their territory. Aelin, Aedion, Rowan, Lysandra, Manon, Gavriel, and Fenrys are all together. Woo! They made it to the marshes, and they had to send Abraxos off to go hide because he is very large, and they are in the plains of a marsh, so there's not a lot of, like, big, tall things to block him. So it would be very obvious if he was there, so...
He's not particularly inconspicuous.
I am supporting Abraxos with my shirt today, even though we're not going to be talking about him because I love him and he deserves to be here all the time. Lorcan and Elide are still making their way. They're on their way to... I almost said Fenharrow. That is incorrect. They are on their way to Eelway, which is to meet up with her queen, aka Aelin. Lorcan's not thrilled with them, but... Here we are.
He's pissed.
What I thought was really cool is Lorcan let Elide in a lot on his kind of like purpose, sort of. He left out the part where he wants to kill the queen and all of that fun stuff and kind of murder everyone else because they deceived him. But he did tell her about kind of the wyrdkeys and the wyrdgates and the idea behind like the thing that I don't know if he necessarily said exactly what she has and how it is kind of tied to that, but he definitely gave her the information to assume that the stone she has is tied to all of these things. And then Elide gave Lorcan a little kiss. Yay. And that's where we left off.
Everybody's coming together.
Yes, they're all going to be in one place, and that's this episode. Well, they're making their way to be in one place, which is this episode. Minus Chaol and Yrene. They're still doing
We're getting
their thing.
closer.
They're still in a different book,
so it's fine.
They're still
in a different book.
They're still in a different book. So they're over there.
Not even in a different place. An entirely different text.
Yeah. We get one new character who I feel like might become important. It's the only reason I listed it. I don't know how to say his name because I didn't listen to the audiobook, but...
Yrene.
Yrene? Okay. That's great. That's it.
Yrene?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Sorry.
I was going to say, is it similar to Yrene, where you just do the E-R-A-N and just the Y is silent?
You can say Yrene. It still sounds like what it sounds like.
It sounds less like urine. Well, okay. That being said, Yrene. He is... I wrote from the Burlad, which is like one of the other Rookin groups.
Yep.
And he is set to marry Forte. No one really knows where that came from, though. We just know that they're engaged somehow. Or betrothed. Not engaged. Difference. But.
Betrothed.
Yeah. They're betrothed. And it came out of left field. And we're like, huh? Who are you? That's all. That's our new character. So we're starting out with Tower of Dawn today. And the big entrance to Tower of Dawn is Chaol can move up to his knees now.
Yeah.
Which is super exciting. They continued to work. They continued and continued. Yrene kept doing, kind of putting her magic and like fighting off some of the darkness that's in him. And so slowly it just kept going up. And now he can move anything below his, like his knees. He can like bend his legs, but he has issues still with his thighs. Like they can't really hold him up. They can't really do much. So he still uses his chair. Can't walk yet, but progress. Before it was just his toes and his feet. And so now we got up to his knees.
They're still doing training lessons as well. Mm-hmm. So he's still working with the women at the Torre, training them self-defense, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Keeping him busy and motivated is good.
Mm-hmm. He's also still going to the training with all the guards, the Kagan guards, which is great. And there's a lot of times that Yrene will go and sit with them and kind of come up with new ways to do some of the activities, similar to what she did with, I don't remember his name right now, one of the guards that lost his arm. My brain is saying Sen.
It's not. My brain said Seth, and I'm like, that's not right.
It starts with an S. Similar to when Yrene was working with him on his physical therapy to like get him back, she would kind of sit when they would do all of their like sparring or whatever and modify things so that Chaol can still do them, modify things so that the guard could also do them. So it's kind of nice. They do things where he's in his chair. They do things where he's propped in a certain direction so that he can still do stuff and work out the other muscles of his body. And then they still do all of his like leg exercises.
They're going to dinner.
Yeah, Chaol and Yrene are headed to dinner as they typically do with the Kagan at the end of the day. Everything is like very sus as they enter. The children are kind of looking at Yrene and Chaol funny. The Kagan is also kind of like eyeing them up strangely. We walk into the scenario and Chaol and Yrene both feel like something's off. Immediately into this Hussar and Argan, I think. Yeah, Caution's not involved. Yes. So it's Hussar and Argan are like kind of just pushing, like saying a lot of things that trying to get Chaol to like be mad in some manner, like really trying to like get him fired up. They bring up Nesryn at some point, pretty much saying like, you should be excited. Nesryn's due to come home tomorrow. And then Chaol's like, oh, actually, she wrote a letter and she won't be back for another 3 weeks. And they kind of keep like just poking and poking and poking at Chaol. They say a lot of things about Aelin and Dorian and them being in Skull's Bay and how Aelin put on a show of her like power and nearly took out all of Skull's Bay, which we know is not true. As the reader, we know that she did show a large amount of her power, but she took out these Volg warriors that were kind of pushing against them. They also say that she has been spotted on the coast of Eelway setting fires to villages. And Chaol pushes back and is like, no, that's not Aelin. Aelin wouldn't do that. And they just kept pushing that, like, well, clearly she has a vendetta against Eelway for them not joining her or not saving her for 10 years. And, like, really all of this gossip that's been going on kind of around the world about Selena being mad that no one supported her when she was Selena, and now she's Aelin again. And so it's just all this terrible stuff. And Chaol really is pushing back. He's saying, no, she wouldn't do this. No, that isn't like her.
He's trying to make sure that, like, because the Coggan's at the table and they're trying to influence their dad to stay out of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And Chaol is trying to do the best that he can. He also doesn't have this information. Like, he was not informed that any of this had happened. So some of it is, like, some of it was Yrene trying to get them to say the information because she didn't have the information, and to try to, like, get Chaol out of having to be embarrassed by asking, like, what happened or what news. He realizes that he fucked up and that she actually did go to Skulls Bay, and they're getting the report back of everything that happened in Skulls Bay. And then the fires that are in Eelway are someone else setting the fires, but the rumor mill is, like, churning out that she's the one that's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's retaliation, which looks bad to the Coggan if they're going there if Chaol's there to try to gain peace.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know for sure. So Hussar at one point asks him, like, how do you know that she's not doing this for revenge? And he's like, she would never do that. And she asks him to swear on Irene's life, and he can't. Yeah. Because he doesn't know for sure. He's not 100% confident. Knowing Chaol, there's no fucking way he'd be 100% confident.
No, he still has this idea.
He's
known her through, like, three different phases of her
Eelway.
Life. Yes. And that's even, like, in his inner dialogue, he's like, she would never, because of...
Which he can't tell them that. He can't tell them that it's because of her personal
Nehemia.
Connection to them, because that's a weakness that they can then exploit.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of in a really shitty spot, and he just gets, like, hammered throughout this whole dinner. And the Coggan basically tells Argan and Hussar, like, shut the fuck up. Like, this is not the time and the place for this. I don't want to talk about this at dinner.
Yeah.
Deal with it elsewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's shitty. Like, the way, and granted, even Irene's thought process behind this was, like, at no point have I ever seen these siblings, like, actually, like, go with each other on a topic and, like, really push for it. So, like, Argan and Hussar, like, she knew from the beginning they were plotting something, because they never are on each other's side when it comes to literally anything.
Yeah, they manipulated, like, the shit out of that dinner.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. And Chaol feels like he's taken, like, a huge step back because he doesn't have the information.
They do also try to bring Dorian into it, saying how he's there and he's just kind of, like, letting this happen in a way. And Chaol kind of, like, ignores that part and does not feed into them talking about Dorian at all, which I think is a good move, because, like, we know as the readers
he has
that,
some
like,
self-control.
Yeah, we know as the readers that, like, Aelin keeps a lot of secrets. She is kind of a hothead, or at least she was when she was Selena. She was definitely a hothead. Like, she's
still a hothead.
Yeah. But we also know at her core, like, she
just has more to love now and protect.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we just know that she wouldn't do that to Eelway, like, as the reader. But I can see it. Like, I can see from the inner workings of Chaol being like, I'm not 100%. I'm 98% sure that she wouldn't, but I'm not 100%. Because he doesn't know Aelin as queen Aelin. Which, you know.
It still makes me angry because part of his inner dialogue is, if Aelin had kept herself in check, if she'd played the part of the distressed queen, when has she ever?
Yeah, literally
Sir.
never. Not one time.
If she had played the part of the distressed queen, it would have made his task far easier. Perhaps Aelin has cost them this war, this one shot at a future. Fuck off, okay? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have made your task easier. Sorry, suck it up. You don't get an easy task. Go and get your shit done. You have a mission.
Literally fighting a war currently.
One thing you gotta do, dude. Okay? Do it. Just
Chaol and
figure it out.
Nesryn are technically, like, not in the war, and, like, literally
Dorian
everyone else is.
got forcibly removed from his home. His learning how magic is, like, how to do magic. His beloved got decapitated in front of him, and then he had to flee his home with Rowan, and then he's, like, almost getting killed all of the time. Chaol's vibing in a fancy desert.
Fallen in love with Yrene.
Fallen in love with Yrene, getting his legs to work. All right? What? Easy? You have the far easier task. Just figure it out.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say, and the only thing that, like, I sort of, why I'm like, okay, I get it, why he's 98% sure, is because his realistic observation is that he knew Aelin would not stop if it meant saving her people. And that is the only thing that he's like, yeah, she would burn the world down.
I'm also very on board with, like, nothing is worth Irene's life is the key of it for me. It's like, I don't care. He doesn't care how much he trusts Aelin. At the end of the day, he cannot 100% guarantee that she would not do absolutely anything to protect her people. Mm-hmm. And if the right situation arose, yeah, she'd fucking burn the villages in Ylwe. I'm sure. Yeah.
Also, to your point of saying where...
Not worth Irene's life.
No, yeah. To your point of saying that he was saying that, like, she needed to just keep her head down and, like, do the queenly things. Chaol blames her for costing them this war. Like, saying that her actions are impacting his ability to do his job, and it's going to cost them the war. This little thing. I wrote in all caps, "Sir, I've been trying to be on your side. Give me something to work with, please." Because the second I read that, I went, are you joking? She is literally being attacked every step of the way. They're just trying to do the thing and keep Erewhon at, like, you know, arm's reach. Like, just keep him out just a little bit, because Chaol, you're still doing what you need to do. They're still trying to line shit up.
She should sit in the north and wait while he slowly conquers all of everything else and just sit around and wait for Chaol to get his shit together. Like, no, that's not a thing. What also made me annoyed was the fact that he goes from, it would have made his task far easier, to, she's cost them the whole war. Like, it wasn't even like my task is now impossible and this is costing us. Like, my life's more difficult. God, now it's just, we're done. We're cooked. I'm like,
I can't do my job, so now the war is over and we've died. Because, Chaol, you're the most important player in this scenario.
Yeah. God damn it.
The one thing I did like, we know Dorian is accounted for as, like, the Chaol, Nesryn side. We had no idea where Dorian was. If you're reading just Tower of Dawn, you would not know where Dorian was until this moment. So it's nice that Chaol gets something where he knows that, like, Dorian is still alive.
He knows
and
he's
with Aelin, and, like, they're kind of working together still. After that dinner, I said earlier that Caution wasn't involved in the, like, bombardment. He comes and visits Chaol. And he does it in, like, the most suspicious, weird way. He climbs up his balcony and, like, knocks on the balcony window. And we're like, huh? Sir, what? They have a little, like, back and forth. I don't even think I highlighted it, but I really thought it was funny. Where Chaol's like, you just, like, sneak in people's rooms all the time. Like, aren't you... Like, isn't it great in your...
He was surprised that a prince had, like, lockpicking as a skill.
Yeah.
And he said, learned more for sneaking in and out of ladies' bedrooms than stealing, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I thought your court was a bit more open in regard to that sort of thing than my own. Perhaps, but cranky old husbands remain the same on either continent.
I
Chaol
don't know why
chuckled,
I didn't highlight
shaking
it, but
his
it's
head.
in my head.
What can I do for you, Prince?
It's so good.
It's fantastic. He is there to try to get more information about, like, what's going on with Yrene, because there have been multiple attacks that seem like they're targeted to Yrene, and Caution, being hopelessly in love with someone who does not want him, is still checking up on her, because I do truly believe him when he says, like, at the end of the day, like, she is still one of my, like, closest friends. He'll get over it, but they'll still be friends. It'll be fine. There's not really much more information, which is a little stressful.
Yeah, the only thing Caution really tells Chaol, which is something that he is able to use later a little bit, is that Rolf placed a very large order for fire lances from their continent. Like Caution, like the Coghan continent. And then he says, and then on top of it, Aelin ordered like 2 times more. So now 3 times the amount of fire lances to begin with. And they're technically, he pretty much gave Chaol the information that, like, this war is going to make the Coghan a lot of money. And
this was also conveniently left out of the argument at dinner.
Correct.
Because it's pro-war propaganda.
Yeah.
And they were not there to spew pro-war propaganda at dinner.
Yes.
So, Caution, I think both Caution and Sartaq are the ones that are, like, on the fence at the moment. I don't think they particularly go one way or the other in terms of, like, helping the continent or not. But I think that they're more invested in, like, they're actively trying to get enough information to make the right decision. Whereas, like, Hussar and
Argon.
Yeah. Argon. Are like, nah, fuck it. We're done. Toast. Get out. Yeah. We don't want you here.
Yeah, which I really like. I think Caution of the characters in the Coghan is my favorite. And the only reason is he even says, like, when Chaol's questioning his, not necessarily questioning his loyalty towards the Coghan, but, like, questioning his stance on everything, he's very ready and willing to go to war to protect people. Like, he is very of the mindset, like, yeah, he has heard the rumblings of, like, people saying that he's first in line, even though he's like, it's not my decision to make. He's, like, the most, I think, of them all, even though we know he's in love with Yrene. He really is pretty level-headed across the board, like, of the siblings. Yeah. Even Sartaq, I'm like, I kind of want to punch him in the throat every once in a while, because he says some unruly shit. Caution is, like, he's playing, like, 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers, because he's looking at every aspect. He brought Kaelin at the very beginning. He's like, you know information that I don't. I would really like, I know what's happening in Rifthold. I want information from you about that. Is that happening here? I don't necessarily believe my sister just killed herself. I believe something played a part. She wouldn't have just done that. Like, all of these things, he's kind of, like, questioning everything in the right way, which would make a great Coghan, in my opinion, based off all the other siblings. And then one's pregnant, so who knows what's happening there. That one, like,
she's so sweet.
Chills.
I love.
She doesn't really do anything. She's just kind of like, hi, I'm here.
She has, but there have been scenes where she is, like, the mellow.
Yeah. She's just kind of
relax,
like, there.
Not fight at dinner. Chill.
Yeah.
She's just not very forceful. Caution and Chaol's conversation ends with Caution basically saying, like, this war, no matter whether we join or not, is, like, going to be already, like, talked about for generations to come. I will go where the Coghan orders me to go.
Yeah.
But you definitely get the feeling that he's like, I would like my father to order me to go somewhere, but I will not do anything unless it's ordered. And then Chaol seems to comes up with an idea, like right at the end of the chapter, and asks Caution when his father's next meeting with his trade advisors is.
Dun dun dun.
He's finally going to go do something.
It's about time.
He's gonna make an attempt at least.
Yeah. Granted,
So
they've been in mourning, so like I understand. He's trying
true.
to like.
He's been gathering a lot of information. He hasn't been doing nothing, that's for sure. But for someone who
he
is so frustrated that Aelin just blew up all of his non-existent plans, let's go do something.
Yeah, his plan was to just like wait until the Coggin finally invited him to a meeting.
Yeah, because we have so much time to wait right now.
Yeah. So we jump over to Nesryn and Sartaq. They are, as previously stated, on their way to these towers to like search them out. They searched, I think, 2 of them so far, and they're headed to the 3rd one. They took a couple days. So in that the 2nd tower they went to, Falcon was there. We learned about him being a shapeshifter. We learned that Sartaq has a thing against shapeshifters, which I'll fight him. And then Nesryn is like, one of my best friends is a shapeshifter, sir. So get
back off.
Yeah. So Falcon had to heal.
He's still a little shit about it in this fucking chapter.
Yeah.
I'm like,
which is why, like, of the siblings, he's not my least favorite, but he's definitely not number 1.
No.
Falcon in that he defended them. Like, that was his whole, like, he was there kind of spying on them to see what was going on. Yeah. But he defended them. He attacked the spider that was trying to get them. And then Kadara took it out, which was a fucking gnarly scene. So
yeah, Kadara's
they waited.
Fucking badass.
Yeah, they waited. It took him 10 days to heal.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, Nesryn was allowed to take Kadara out alone for a little ride, and she goes, I don't understand how they let 3-year-olds do this, because also same, like, that's wild.
I would be so down.
I think it's cool. How do I say this in a non-spoilery way? 4th Wing has dragons. That series has dragons. Onyx Storm just came out. We recorded an episode. The one right before this is Onyx Storm. I think. True. No, 2 before this is Onyx Storm. Something like that.
No, you're right.
It made me just think about that. It is the most minute spoiler that I really don't think would ruin the books for you if you have not read them. But it'll be like 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. When you are like paired up with a dragon, that dragon only lets you ride them. Other people or other flyers can't ride that dragon. So like this scene of like Kadara letting Nesryn fly her, I thought was kind of cool. I know they're not like a bonded pair.
It's definitely not quite the same, but they're also like, they're the same way your cats and my cats would take a while to warm up to a new person and let them pet them. And they've been around each other a lot, and I think Kadara likes her. Yeah. But she's not been like able to go off and like ride Kadara on her own.
Yeah. You also, like, during this scene with Nesryn and Sartaq, you get this idea that Sartaq's trying to, like, poach Nesryn. In, like, you could be a rider. You could, like, come and be in our side of the war. Like, you can come here. Which I think is great. I think Sartaq is very much, like, we are going to be going to war. And I would like you to be here with us while we do that.
I think he doesn't necessarily have a point of view either way. I think he believes it's more likely that they would go to war than stay.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing,
and out of the war.
I think he also knows that, like, if given the option to Nesryn, would you stay here with us if we didn't go to war versus us going to war? Like, she is not going to stay.
She's not sticking around.
Yeah. No. If they don't help them in this war.
Nope.
It'd be
She
sick.
is going back no matter what. Whether it's with them or without them, doesn't matter. She's leaving.
Yeah. I think
whether she ever comes
she has
back
the
is
option.
probably also determined on whether they end up going to war.
Yeah.
I don't think she'll ever want to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah.
during that time that Falcon was healing, Nesryn was pretty much his shadow. They all kind of did work, which I thought was really cool. It was a great little like kind of background lore where Sartaq, Sartaq was pretty much like, no one's above work. Like we scoop out the like rook poop and we do all the things and we clean the area, we do this. Like everyone has a role and everyone's doing something. It's not like they don't have people like beneath them doing more and they're doing less because they're the flyers or captains or whatever.
They don't have like a
hierarchy.
Yeah. At least within the like hearth. Is it the hearth or pack?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's the hearth because it's the hearth mother, hearth sister and brother, whatever.
Yeah.
They have a really sweet moment. The hearth mother has kind of like an evening, I guess they do like evening stories around the fire. I don't know if it's every evening or what the deal is, but they do kind of stories around the fire. And the hearth mother pretty much asked Nesryn if she had any stories. And she kind of went back and she goes, well, my stories aren't as like nice. They're not like these like sunshine and rainbowy type stories of, she's like, I don't know, I was teased as a kid. I lived in Rifthold. Like, I was never given like the lead position in anything because I was a woman, because Rifthold is kind of shitty. Under the previous Aderlin king. Rifthold was not a great place to like grow up really. So she didn't really have many stories, but she did say, I could sing. Like that's kind of my thing, is she sings. We learned very early on that like she would sing for her kind of nieces and nephews or cousins, something like that. I think cousins, technically.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. She was singing for children early on in the book. And so she was trying to think of something to sing, and she thought to sing a song of Aderlin, which was one that her mother used to sing to her at night to kind of like soothe her before she passed away. And she kind of let them know, like, this is what my mom used to sing for me when she was alive. And we know that from previous chapters that Borte's mother passed, and that Sartaq was the one that brought her back, like her body back, and they buried her and kind of did that whole thing. And so during that, like during her singing, Borte was crying and everyone was kind of in their grief and feeling their grief kind of on behalf of Nesryn, which I thought was such a sweet thing. Like she was singing from her heart about her mother who passed, and then they were also very much feeling that grief that Nesryn had and kind of letting her show that to everyone, which I thought was wonderful.
I think, yeah, and they're all still grieving the, like, Coggan's daughter that died. Yeah. And it just, the song they say is a story of mothers and their daughters and how they loved and fought and tended to each other. Yeah, just so precious. Sweet. And it just, it's a really cute, very touching moment. Especially right after, like, all of the chaos.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. She sings more. They ask for another tale. Or song, I guess. And so she sings again. It's just great. It's like a nice little peaceful moment, which is so foreboding. Because some shit's probably gonna happen. Because anytime characters have a peaceful moment, bad shit happens later. As we're pretty well aware. They rested that night, and then they kind of went on to do what they were gonna do. Just go to our next tower.
They, like, during this time, they have a conversation where they talk about the riders that pass away, like what happens to the rooks after their riders pass. And he mentions that they basically are like offered their freedom, like they go back into the wild. Some stick around, like sometimes they'll get another rider, but it's like it's completely up to the rook, whatever the rook wants to do. And he also mentions that their 3 weeks are up, and this is when Nesryn tells him that she's already written to Chaol for the other 3 weeks, which we found out about in the previous chapter. But I guess she had not told Sartaq yet that she had already sent that letter for 3 more weeks. She does mention again, because this is what we keep talking about, like, if they don't go to war, she's leaving. He says a great deal can happen in 3 weeks, and she says, even so, at the end of it, I must return to Antica.
Yep. Yeah, in this time, too, because there's a rook without a rider, he's trying to say, like, you should go see that rook. You should go, like, try to be friendly
There's a rook
with it.
in the Aerie that does not have a rider.
Yeah.
And is available. And he wants her to stay and take it and be a rider.
Yeah.
And I also want her to stay and take it and be a rider.
I would like her to.
But I want them to also go to war.
I think her response to him is, like, very perfect, too, because she pretty much says, like, it would not be fair to that rook if I just use it now and then I'm also going to leave. Like, if you guys don't go to war with us, like, I still have to go fight this war. And I think that's, like, a wonderful thing. Borte, of course, pushes back and is like, nah, go ride the rook.
Yeah, he's like, go test it out. She's like, I don't want to do that. Thank you. I'm not doing that, because I think she's protecting herself as well. If she does it, she's going to love it. And then to not be able to actually stay is heartbreaking.
Yeah, we're going to have a Manon Abraxos moment where Manon can never leave Abraxos' side.
No, I can't.
They make their way to their final tower. We learn that Borte actually likes Falcon, which I think is fantastic, because she's very, like, childish around him in the, like, can you transfer into this? Can you transform into this? Can you shift into this? Can you shift into this? Yeah. Like, when you're shifting into this, do you get the urge to, like, pee on things? Or do you get the urge to, like, do this? Do you get the urge to, like, hunt, and do things change? And, like, she's just, like, a million questions, and he's kind of like, sure. Yeah. It's like a kid asking an adult, like, 5,000 questions about something they really don't know a lot of information about. It's fantastic. It made me happy, because really Sartaq's the only asshole who doesn't like Falcon. So
yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, we're here for Falcon. Anytime Sartaq also has any type of sass towards Falcon, now that Borte, like, knows about everything, she's like, shut the fuck up. Which is fantastic.
Borte's great.
Happy. Yeah. So they left Kadara kind of off to the side. Also, I believe in this moment, Falcon shifted into, like, a mouse and was in Nesryn's, like, pocket or something.
I don't remember what he shifted it to, but I do remember
so that they could all fly.
Specifically, her, like, talking to him, like,
that's
whispering
a different
into her
scene.
pocket or something like that.
That might be a different scene. I think he shifts anyway in all of them, because he's lighter weight for the rook to carry. So they go to this tower. Kadara screams from a field. When they get back to her, she's surrounded by rooks and a bunch of flyers. And this is where we meet. I think he's a wolf. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, they land, and then he shifts into a wolf, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he shifts back to a person at some point.
Yeah.
I think his shifting is kind of irrelevant. I just like it.
This is when Yrene comes into the picture.
Yeah.
And he, like, Falcon comes out as a wolf, and, like, Borte and Yrene are kind of arguing at each other because, well, we don't know yet why they're arguing at each other. We just know that Borte and Yrene are not good friends. And then Yrene is kind of like, what's going on? Like, why? You have a dog? You've got some other people that are new that are hanging out with you?
Forte responds
And
to him, he's my new pet.
My new pet. And Falcon is just
Yrene gaped between girl and wolf as Falcon sat beside Nesryn. She couldn't resist scratching his fuzzy ears. That's so funny.
To his credit, the shapeshifter let her, even turning his head into her palm.
Strange company you keep these days.
So they run into Yrene, and this is when they find out that they also had hatchlings go missing.
Yes.
So they had 3 of them go missing. They were tracking them but didn't find anything. And it only happened 2 nights ago. So this is really recent compared to the ones that they've been tracking for with Sartaq.
Yeah, so pretty much Sartaq and Borte had no real evidence to attack. I never know how to say the spiders. I'm going to say just the spiders. It's the thing
Karen Kui.
Karen Kui. Is that right?
Karen Kui? Yeah.
Sure. The spiders. They have no real justification to attack the spiders because, one, they have no proof that the eggs were taken by them. They just know that they've gone missing. And it happened, like, weeks ago. So, like, they wouldn't be able to really figure that out.
Right.
Unless they specifically found an egg.
The first set of eggs that they took. Yeah. This new set of eggs were only taken 2 days ago. Yeah. So,
and that was of the other clans. Yeah. This is where we find out that Yrene and Borte are betrothed. Because they're sassing each other. And when Nesryn...
She calls him a bastard as he leaves.
Yeah. Oh no, it's Falcon. That young captain, Yrene, Falcon said carefully to Borte. You seem to know him well. Borte scowled. He's my betrothed. And then the chapter ends and you're like, huh? What you mean? Borte is just betrothed?
She's super
She doesn't seem like the type... This group doesn't seem like the type to have betrothals. And she doesn't seem like the type to be like, yeah, sure, that sounds great.
So, Lorcan and Elide... We go back to Lorcan and Elide. They are traveling through Eelway, going to the Stone Marshes. Everyone's getting so much closer to each other. It's very exciting. And Elide can feel that this is a bad place. She does not know why they would be headed here. Because they both feel like extremely uncomfortable. They don't want to be here. That's just got all of the bad vibes that they've been feeling throughout the whole book, throughout the whole series. And she, like, as they're traveling through, they are she's having bad dreams. Also, Lorcan's goal is still, like, get the 2 keys and, like, go to Morath. So, like, he's in his head kind of, like, doubling down on I'm only going with her because she's going towards Aelin and I need to go to Aelin to get the keys and then I'll just leave. It's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely not that I want to just be near her
there
all the
is
time.
Zero ulterior motive, no emotional connections here whatsoever. He is a unfeeling fey male. He's above this.
I thought it was really cool that when Elide starts getting this, like, kind of suspicious feeling of these marshes, Lorcan has had this feeling the whole time. It is the reason he was pulled this direction and why they started going this direction instead of going to Benjali or, like, any of the other places that they could potentially be going to. She's like, I have this bad feeling, and he goes, what is it? Like, describe what you're feeling. And he's like, what do you sense? She's like, silence, life, but such silence as if nothing exists. Like, as if just this, like, negative energy is in this area. And he's kind of like, good. Every time he, like, really leans on her ability to question the world around her, which I think is kind of cool. It is that little bit of Lorcan that's like, I like her brain because he keeps asking her questions and having her describe like the things she notices in all of these things. Similar to when they were in the like tavern, he was like, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you looking at? Like what how is your brain is processing, which I think is great. They don't know why Aelin is headed to the marshes though. Like that's a big unknown for them. Elide obviously doesn't know, and Lorcan definitely doesn't know. While they're traveling through there, you mentioned Elide's dreams. While they're sleeping, she's having dreams of like the dead and who died in the marshes. Like they have like these creatures that are kind of lurking everywhere as well, which is such a strange like little thing that I think it's kind of brushed over, is the fact that she's having dreams of how these people died. Why is that happening? Like what magic or power does Elide have that she can just like see what these people went through just by being in their proximity? There is a spot where there are snakes and random things that kind of like are constantly coming up to them, and Lorcan puts out some of his magic and like kills them off. And Elide's mind goes to this. Every time he killed, she felt the earth shudder, not in fear of him, but as if it were awakening and listening, wondering who dared walk across it. Which I thought was such a little like dabble into Lorcan's like death magic. Like the fact that he himself claims that like his magic comes from like the god of death or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just scary. The earth is just responding to him killing things, which is...
He has a lot of power.
Yeah. And she's not scared of him, which is also like... We're like,
nope. She's definitely not scared of him. They end up talking about... she asks him about his queen.
Mm-hmm.
Not Aelin, but Maeve. And his answers are so sad. Mm-hmm. She's asking him about like whether she'll really kill him for what he's done, and he's like, yep, probably. And she asks if he loves her, and he says yes. And he asks if he's ever been her lover, and he responds that he offered once, and she laughed at him, which is so sad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
He says, so I've made myself invaluable in other ways.
Elide responds to him, perhaps she uses your love to her own advantage. Perhaps it's in her best interest to drag you along. Maybe she'll change her mind when you seem the most likely to leave.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
He says, don't make the mistake of believing me to be a romantic fool. I do not hold any shreds of hope for her. And Elide responds, then that does not seem like love at all. It's so beautiful!
And what do you know of love? He was so close, had neared without her realizing it. I think love should make you happy, Elide said. It should make you into the best possible version of yourself. Are you implying I am neither of those things? I don't think you ever even know what happiness is. You're like, oh no. So sad.
No, he does not.
His face grew grave, thoughtful. I do not mind being around you. Is that a compliment? Thank you, Lorcan, the king of compliments. Let's go.
This part breaks my freaking soul. She says, I would hide you in Peranth if you do what you need to do and need somewhere to go, you would have a place there with me. And he is kind of shocked by this. And he says, I would be a dishonored male. It would reflect poorly upon you. And she says, if anyone thinks that, they would have no place in Paranth. And she places a kiss on his cheek.
Mm-hmm. I like she rose up slightly, replacing her mouth where her fingers had been. Like she was standing next to him, touching his face, like being like, you are welcome anywhere that I am. And then she gets on her little tippy toes. She's like, mwah, little kiss. So cute.
She says, you do not need to answer me now or ever. You could show up on my doorstep in 10 years and the offer would still stand. But there's a place for you in Paranth if you should ever need or wish for it. And he leans forward and kisses her.
Mm.
And they have such a sweet moment together. And it's so cute and loving. And he's like so gentle with her. And they just kind of stand there like kissing each other. And then all fucking hell breaks loose because we can't have anything nice.
Sarah doesn't let us just feel joy for a little.
Literally, like, he's kissing her and she's like ready to, like, about to tell him that she wants more. And he like stops and fucking his head snaps up. And a fucking whole ass wave army of Ilkin are just coming their way. I'm like, what the fucking Christ?
And by a storm, we mean like hundreds of Ilkin are flying through the sky towards them. Which is not great. So he, of course, is like, no, we need to run right now. She asks, what is that? Ilkin. That is an army of Ilkin. Elide knew they weren't coming for her. They're headed for Aelin, as they know. At least now Elide is sure Aelin is in this direction. Mm-hmm. Which is terrifying.
And even worse than Sarah giving us that information and then moving on to a different chapter. Whoever put this tandem read together is like, all right, now we're going back to Tower of Dawn. We'll come back to this later, I promise.
Yeah, we're in Tower of Dawn for like a hot second, too. Like, we're there for a little bit, which is great.
Yeah.
So
Chaol has gone to meet with the Coggin, is going to meet with him and his trade viziers. This part, I actually was very impressed by him. I was like, oh, he has a great little plan. He goes in there to try to meet with the Coggin, and the Coggin is like, I told you, like, I don't want to meet with you. Like, you have to meet with these other people. And Chaol's like, no, don't worry. I'm here to meet with your trade vizier. This guy right here. And, like, goes in there and starts asking him questions about, like, so, these fire lances that you were going to sell to my queen, like, what are we talking about? Like, how many? Like, what was the price of them? Doing all of this to have the trade person, like, repeat these astronomical, obscene, gross numbers in front of the Coggin, and the Coggin be like, excuse me, what? How much money are we gonna get from that sale? Just that one? And then Chaol goes, great, I'd like to double the order. And the Coggin is like,
with what money?
With what money? And he goes, well, I brought all of the shit that you then refused with me. Lots of jewels and things, gifts.
They're currently I'm itemized right now.
Yep. They're actually already being counted because we were going to give them to you as gifts and you said no. So I would now like to use them to purchase this shit. Although clever, the Coggin
kind of sees through it.
Pretty rightfully so, plays the dead daughter card and is like, again, he's like pissed because he feels like he's being manipulated into this war, which is not entirely untrue, although that's what all of his kids have been doing this whole time to manipulate him out of being in this war, so hopefully they're also getting their shit kicked in.
Probably not. This is when the chief visor also kind of like pivots against Chaol, kind of pushes back of like, are you trying to convince us Aelin Galathinius is good or that she has ill intentions. He's like, clearly, he just like ignores that and is like, no, I'm here to place an order. It doesn't matter her intentions. Like, I'm placing an order on behalf of King Dorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Coggin does not appreciate being manipulated. He doesn't. He kind of sees through all of this. And this is when Chaol pushes back of like, what if your daughter was murdered? And I went, ooh, probably not the time to bring that up, sir. I think you could have just left without saying anything more. Probably would have gone 10 steps ahead. Now you're gonna go back. So the Coggin,
because they're still all thinking that it was a suicide.
Yeah.
And like, this comes when the Coggin gets really frustrated and is like, you don't know anything about war. Like, you don't understand why I'm hesitant. And Chaol's basically like, I'm about to learn. So like, I don't know what else you want to talk about, because whether you join or not, I now have to go deal with this. So like, it's not about whether I'm trying to prevent or no. And he like doubles down on the, I'm still grieving my daughter. And Chaol, I feel like he has empathy, and then yet like just doesn't quite have the right read on it as to when to bring up the emotional, not manipulation, because I don't think he says it to try to emotionally manipulate him. I think he's just trying to be like very frank about like where the fuck they're at in terms of what's going on. And he's like, I'm grieving my daughter, and Chaol's like, this is not going to get better. You could end up grieving another daughter, because he thinks that she was murdered by like Parrington's agents. And if that's the case, then they're already here.
Mm-hmm.
And then his whole family is in danger.
Yeah.
So it's just, I get why he does it. I just think that he does it in such a terrible.
He does it in a way that's undermining.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing, especially with the Coggin and his children, is that the Coggin, for this entire book so far, knows everything, quote unquote, like air quotes, knows everything. He knows about the things happening in the north. He knows about the things happening in the south. He knows all the shit that's happening in Morath. Like, they have that information. They're not doing anything right now. But for Chaol to then counter and say, you don't know what's happening in your own four walls, because what if I told you Parrington's agents are already here? That's what happened at the Torre. Like, that's what happened with your daughter. Like, and they're manipulating you into or out of this war already. And then the Coggin just dismisses him. He doesn't respond. He just says, you are dismissed. And Chaol tries very hard to stay. He is clearly in a wheelchair. And unfortunately, Sen.
Like, the whole time he is Shen. The whole time he's like trying to stand up. He's like, his inner dialogue is just begging his legs to like stand up so that he can stay.
Yeah.
Because the guards have come, and Shen's one of them. They come and like literally like grab his wheelchair to take him out. And he's like, yells at them to not touch it. And Shen is like, looks at him with so much like sympathy of like, I'm not.
You don't pay
I'm
my
not
bills.
Disobeying my Coggin. Sorry. And like, it's like he handled it the wrong way, and then the way that he gets ushered out of the room is like the worst possible thing for his confidence.
Yeah. He also then just keeps spewing. Like, he just keeps going and going. Your city is the greatest I've ever laid eyes upon. Your empire, the standard by which all others should be measured. When Morath comes to lay waste to it, who will stand with you if we are all carrion? Which I'm like, he's not necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
But also, you're no longer on thin ice. Like, you broke through the ice.
I think he's at the point now where, like, he realizes that he will likely not get to talk to him again for a very long time. So now he's just like, I just have to lay everything out there of, like, I have to try. And he just uses so much fear tactics to try to be like, I need you to understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
He gets brought back to his room.
It is then also mentioned that the Coggin has told kind of all the guards he's no longer to be allowed in his meeting chambers. So now we aren't even going to get the Coggin to invite him back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not great.
Who's cost them the war now, Chaol?
But it's okay. Aelin's decisions.
It's fine. Aelin's got it.
Have cost us the war. Not
okay. So
Chaol's.
What happens when Chaol has a bad day?
He takes it out on Yrene.
Yeah, great, awesome. So Chaol is in a shitty mood because he's got his, honor. His pride has taken a hit.
Yeah.
And Yrene comes back to do their exercises.
That and she decided after their dinner that she was ready to betray Hussar and she was gonna go have a girls' day in the desert.
Yeah.
And so she was
able to
Chaol.
convince him. Yeah, she was able to convince Hussar to go to the desert that Chaol had kind of been talking about, that they both knew that they needed to go to for whatever research that they've been working on. Mm-hmm. And she was excited because she was able to. Her birthday's coming up.
Mm-hmm. And so she convinced Hussar to have a girls' day in the desert, at this hot spring or whatever it is,
the oasis that their family owns.
Yeah. So is
Chaol excited about this?
Well, she's headed to Chaol with this information. He obviously doesn't know, and she also doesn't know that he's going to be brooding when she shows up. And so, of course, he's brooding, and she's like, "Okay, I guess I'm not telling him the shit I have to tell him because now we have to deal with brooding Chaol because he's brooding."
Yep.
As per usual.
Yeah, it's great. He basically tells her I had an audience with the Coggin today, and he had me hauled out of the room. He couldn't even
kneel to beg.
He couldn't even kneel to beg. He couldn't get up. And she's saying you've made remarkable progress and you've been doing really well. And he says, I want to be able to fight alongside my men again, to die beside them. Which is so... I love that line so much, because it is so much more than just I want to be able to walk again, so I have my... He just wants to be able to make a contribution the same as the people that he has trained with his whole life.
She sasses back and says, well, brooding about it won't fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
He then, kind of...
And she tells him...
Goes in.
Then get up. And he is a little shit about it.
Yeah.
She says, get up. And he's like, what do you mean? She goes, get up. You want to die in this war so badly? Then get up. Stand up. I'm she's so done with his shit.
Every time he responds back, he says nasty things towards her, and she's like,
"Oh yeah,
get up, move, stand up. Then if you're gonna be this way, then stand up and do some shit about it. If you're gonna complain and not do anything, get up, go ahead, do something." Which is my favorite.
He says stuff about you don't seem to mind the privileges that came when you snapped your fingers and the Coggin ran here. And then he says, a prince is not good enough for you, so a disowned son of a lord is, referring to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, baiting her and, poking at her the whole time. And she
responded at one point, she goes, you said it yourself, you don't have 2 years. I've repaired enough now that you should be able to stand, so get up. She's like, yes, Yrene.
She says at one point too, she says, you remember how to stand, don't you?
He's saying other stuff, and she's just staying on the topic of stand up.
Great, stand up.
Don't you know how to do these things? I thought you knew how to do this before. Did you not do this before you came here? She's trying to pull him up, she gets under his arms to okay, stand up. Like, just keep going. He's being nasty. She, of course, is like, fine, I'm, like, he says something that, like, breaks.
Oh!
And
oh god, these 2 pages make me so fucking angry.
yes.
He's, like, badgering her about, like, why did she look so relieved when he said he had told her that Nesryn was going to be delayed for another 4 weeks. And she's like, I didn't want to distract you from your progress. And he's like, bullshit, that's a lie. And she says, I think you were relieved. I think you were glad for her to remain away so that you can pretend that you're honor bound to her and let that be a wall. So that when you're here with me, you don't need to see her watching. You don't need to think about what she is to you. With her away, she's a memory, a distant ideal. But when she's here and when you look at her, what do you see? What do you feel? And he says, I had her in my bed, so I think that says enough about my feelings. And she says, yes, you had her in her bed, but I think she was likely a distraction and was sick of it. Perhaps sick of being a consolation prize. Oh, god damn. Oh, it's so good.
She then goes to the... I heard that you and Dorian were kind of pining after Aelin. So Did she pick Dorian then? Not you? Or she was just like, oh,
she says, did she pick Dorian then, the queen? I'm surprised she could stomach either of you, given your history, what your kingdom did to hers. And he said, you didn't seem to mind it one bit that night at the party. I had you practically begging for me. She says, you'd be surprised the people that opiate makes you consider, who you'll find yourself willing to sully yourself with. They go on, and then
forever.
He says to her, yet you were assigned to me because your healer on high saw otherwise. Saw that no matter how high you climbed in that tower, you're still that girl in Fenrys. I knew another woman who lost as much as you, and do you know what she did with all that loss? She hunted down the people responsible for it and obliterated them. What the hell have you bothered to do these years? And Yrene is fucking done. Chaol felt the words hit their mark, felt the stillness shudder through her body, right as he pushed up, right as his weight adjusted and knees bent, and he found himself standing. Too far, he'd gone too far. He'd never once believed those things, even thought them. Not about Yrene. Her chest rose in a jagged breath that brushed against his, and she blinked up at him, mouth closing. And with that movement, he could see a wall rising, ceiling. Never again, she'd never again forgive him, smile at him for what he'd said. Never forget it, standing or no.
She turns around and heads for the door. She's crying because, he's being a little shithead.
He's being a fucking shithead.
He keeps saying, Yrene, calling after her, please stop, just wait, I didn't mean it, all of that. Normal, please don't go, kind of verbiage.
All while just standing there. He stood up, but he's just standing there, like, not moving. And as soon as she goes to, like, do the door handle to leave, he takes a step forward.
Yeah. Takes a step
towards her. He begs her not to go, and she just stands there and doesn't say anything. And he's, like, apologizing profusely. I didn't mean any of it. And she says, a kernel of it must have been in you, though. And he's just, I meant it about myself. What you've done, Yrene, what you are willing to still do, you did this, not all this, not for glory or ambition, or because you believe it's the right thing to do. Your bravery, your cleverness, your unfaltering will. I do not have words for it, Yrene.
He stepped towards her. As he went to reach for her, she stepped back. Chaol's hands curled around empty air. He clenched his jaw. She stepped back again. As he stepped towards her. And every time he took a step forward, she took one back.
She is so goddamn smart. I think that she was initially hurt, but also, like, she's dealt with enough of his shit to know, like, he's being a fucking shithead. He's lashing out. And I think that I'm very happy that he said it, of, like, I'm saying these things about myself. I didn't mean it about you. I think she knows that. It's very nice that he says it out loud to her specifically.
For once.
To all of us. But she's fucking with him.
Yeah. He
She
blinked,
is just...
pausing, reading the light in her eyes, the tone. The witch was tricking him into walking, coaxing him to move, to follow. She paused, meeting his stare. Not a trace of that hurt in them, as if to say, it took you long enough to figure it out. A little smile bloomed on her mouth. He was standing, he was walking, and this woman before him, Chaol made it another step. Yrene retreated. Not a hunt, but a dance. He did not remove his eyes from her as he staggered another step, and another, his body aching and trembling, but he gritted through it, fought for every inch towards her, each step that had her backing up to the wall. And then he makes it to her, and he finally, like, hand above her head against the wall, and they kiss, and it's lovely and wonderful.
I think it's so nice, because it does say that Chaol lowered his head and kissed her. Because he's taller than her now, because he's standing up. Yeah! I like that in her dialogue, at one point, she's like, she had known the moment he stood where her heart had stopped dead and that he hadn't meant it. That he would have crawled. I'm like, yep! He absolutely would have. On his knees for your forgiveness. One day, Chaol will have a bad day and not lash out at the people that he loves. And then I will be happy, and I will no longer give him so much fucking shit. But
True.
he just keeps doing it, and it's making me angry. My note at the end of this is... This is one of my favorite chapters of this book, but I wrote, she's too good for him, but she wants him, and she can have anything she wants, so I'll shut up, okay? If Yrene has decided this is what's for her, then she is a sweet angel and can have whatever, even if it's Chaol.
Oh, it's so good. This is the part we love. The enemies to lovers, the... friends to lovers,
I definitely think it was a little bit more enemies to lovers for Yrene than it was to Chaol.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
But I don't know. Chaol's his own fucking enemy, so.
Yeah. So we kind of move on. They're doing their little lovey-dovey secret kisses in the hallway, secret kisses in everywhere. Yrene, he's now able to stand, so they go down to his normal, like, morning training, and she goes with them.
He's, like, walking around with a cane now. He doesn't have to be in a wheelchair.
I think they bring the wheelchair, but a lot of the dialogue is that he has a cane and he's learning to use the cane potentially as a weapon while he's standing. Because you have it, might as well use it. She realized that he was fighting for her, which I thought was very cute. And then this is finally when she tells Chaol about her plans to get Hussar to bring her to the desert.
One other thing that I want to point, because I just thought it was really sweet. They go to dinner at one point, and like Chaol walks in, and like no one acknowledges really that like he's like there's not like a big like hooray, but she does get from the Coggins specifically like approval and like that he was impressed that she was able to do it, which like Yrene fucking beamed and was like so proud that she got some like recognition from the Coggin, which I thought was great.
Apparently Chaol's also invited to this desert party along with a bunch of other people. Yeah. I'm confused by this.
I don't know.
Am I invited to this desert party at least? Oh yes, you and all my other favorite people. Argan, Caution, and a handful of delightful viziers.
She's a shit stirrer though, and she knows.
Yeah.
She knows that Yrene has some sort of feelings. I think Hussar, just for fun for Hussar, absolutely would invite Caution and Chaol to her birthday just to stir the fucking pot. Even though she does not like him. She likes making him uncomfortable, though.
Yeah. He asks what would be a suitable present for your birthday, and she
Cute.
loops her arm in his and says, I have everything I need. Ugh, so cute. So cute.
Precious.
I'm kind of scared of this birthday party. Not gonna lie. There's too many people. There's too many players.
It's Hussar.
Yeah, there's too many players, and Hussar is
So.
involved. I thought it was just gonna be
Hussar's
Yrene, Hussar,
planning
and
it.
her girlfriends.
Nope.
But no, now we have Caution and Argan and Chaol.
I mean, at least they have Caution.
Yeah.
I like
True.
Caution.
I like Caution, but like also,
There's just a lot of moving pieces.
yeah, there's too many people. I was like, if it was just Yrene, Hussar, and like the other sister, Duva, or something, like just the girls that go and have like a little spa day, I feel like a lot more could happen. We are at, I think, Manon's point of view. Maybe? I don't freaking know now. I thought it was. We finally get like a Manon point of view at some point in
I
this
think that's
section.
later. That's the next chapter. We're only in EOS for this one chapter, and then we go back to
True.
Nesryn and Sartaq.
Oh, this is a very similar chapter to Lorcan and Elide. They discuss very similar things. They've been traveling for 2 weeks, our dream team. This is Aelin, Aedion, Lysandra, Gavriel, Rowan, Fenrys.
Yep.
Manon.
Got them all. Not Abraxos, because he's hiding.
Yeah. He's off eating sheep somewhere. It's fine. He's happy.
Probably.
They've been traveling through the marshes for 2 weeks on foot. They're all miserable. Aelin is describing being eaten alive by bugs, and she just every once in a while just shoots off like she like covers her body in like a thin layer of flame to kill off all the bugs that keep biting her, which I think is funny.
Sounds so fucking dope.
Aelin also mentions that Manon seems to be the only one that isn't being physically drained by the marshes, which is a little terrifying. Because as we know, Manon has Volg blood in her in some capacity, and the witches in a general sense are kind of tied to Volg, which is also kind of tied to death. And as we learn that like Lorcan was pulled in this direction because of his like connection to like the god of death. So that's a little ominous. I do love there's this one little section as they're moving through where Fenrys is like complaining, and so Lysandra comes out of the water. She's like scouting along with Rowan, so she scouts through the water and she turns into like a creature of the marshes and kind of like goes through, and everyone is like kind of like, oh, you're gross, like get away from me. And Rowan's also like flying out to like see what's ahead, and Fenrys makes a like comment like that towards her, and so she transforms into Fenrys and like shifts into him and just kind of like mimics him in some way, and he's like, that's freaky, please stop. And she's like, no, I won't.
Yeah. He makes a comment about the fact that like no matter what she transforms into, her brand is still there.
Yeah.
And Aedion is like like his whole body goes rigid, like excuse me, what did you just say? And, you know, Lysandra's a little shit stirrer as well, so
she had to.
She transforms into him. It's so good.
She transfers him and then in his own drawl says, I suppose it shall always be my tell, and smirks at him. And he's like, I hate everything about this. Please stop it. As we know, so Rowan's scouting ahead, and he pretty much senses the power of our lock that we're looking for. Dead ahead, he comes back and says, it's like another day's walk. Everyone's kind of pissed about that.
Mm-hmm. They have been walking for a very long time.
Yeah.
To be fair.
They're happy to be close, but also it's like, we're not there yet. Like, Jesus Christ. So they decide they've found kind of like a little island that has some ruins around it. that they can, quote unquote, set up camp, eat, kind of chill for the evening, and then go the next morning so that they could be kind of there in the middle of the day, which seems to be a common thing of let's get to a place in the middle of the day, because that's apparently when Aelin is the strongest, as everyone knows.
Yeah.
As
They're
they
all sitting and like getting ready to like camp, and they all sit down to eat. They're all just kind of staring at each other, like waiting for someone to start a conversation. And Aedion is like watching Dorian eat. He says he still eats like a fine lady.
Dorian's head snapped up, but Aelin bit back a laugh at the memory, and they're referring to the memory of the three of them eating in Aelin's home as a childhood home. And it was like the three of them were at like the kids' table, or the kids' end of the table at the time, which is such a sweet little memory.
And I think it was Aelin that had like called him out for like eating like a lady or something like that. And then they all got into an argument of like Dorian calling Aelin like a feral child, basically, of like, what do you mean? You're like rabid.
Yeah. So good.
I'm not the weird one here. Ugh.
As they, of course, were having their little banter around the fire, something like lurched out of the water to attack Manon. And we find out, well, first, Dorian stops it midair. Hands not moved. He's barely shifted in his seat and just like catches the creature in his like ice or like ghost hands. I still picture his like everyone says that Dorian is like shadow wielding. I still picture, instead of shadows, it's like white light, almost like ghost hands. So for me, it's just
like Casper.
Yeah, like ghost hands have just captured this thing in the air. Because I still don't see, I see Dorian as being like he's gone through a lot of shit, but I still see him as like in like an angel versus devil scenario.
He's not like a dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a dark.
He's not
wielding.
like Xaden, which would have like a dark shadow wielding.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
They never like describe his power as being like shadows in any way. You
see it more as like misty almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's almost like seeing wind moving like clouds than it is dark shadows.
Correct.
That's interesting. I can get behind it.
Yeah. At no point his shadows like become, they don't darken a room when they're used. They don't like take away light.
They don't even say that he like uses the shadows to do it. They say that like Dorian's magic held the beast still, frozen with no ice to be seen. The same power he'd once wielded against the Bloodborne. So like they don't.
Yeah, halted by invisible hands.
He hadn't even lifted a hand to direct it. And Dorian says to Manon, "Shall I kill it or set it free?" And Manon says, "Set it free."
And it fucking scurries away. It's like, oh, I fucked with the wrong person.
Yeeted it. And Lysandra just goes, "Aren't they beautiful?"
And then,
so I'm sure we'll see that creature back later.
Oh yeah,
as Lysandra.
Aelin looks over at Rowan. "Oh, you crafty old bastard." Meanwhile, they were here. Rowan had a shield up around them, so something like that
says
couldn't
into
happen.
His mind. Yeah,
couldn't happen. And
how'd that get through there, bud?
How convenient that your shield vanished right as that thing waddled up. What an excellent opportunity for a magic lesson. What if it had gone wrong? Rowan's eyes glittered. Why do you think the hole opened by the witch?
God damn it.
Fucking hell, Rowan. Please.
We need her for the prophecy, please.
Yes.
This ends up turning into a conversation about the Eye of Elena. And we get lore here. So Manon notices the Eye of Elena that Aelin has. And Manon immediately asks where she got it. And Aelin describes it as the Eye of Elena to her. And Manon says, that's the three-faced goddess. In their culture, they call it the Eye of the Goddess, not Elena. because of the way that it's designed, there's like circles that are layered on top of each other, and one represents the crone, one represents the mother, and the other represents the maiden. And then the eye in the center is the heart of the darkness within her. It's an iron teeth symbol. Blue blood prophets have it tattooed over their hearts, and those who won valor in battle when we lived in the wastes were once given those to mark our glory, our being goddess blessed. Aelin says, the day I first saw Baba Yellowlegs, the amulet turned heavy and warm in her presence, though I thought it was in warning. Perhaps it was in recognition. They're kind of trying to judge, like, what it means that this Eye of Elena that her family has had for a while, is also happens to be, like, a witch's symbol. And Manon basically says, like, Baba Yellowlegs knew the, like, more history than we would have been able to get out of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, because she was an ancient.
Unfortunately,
so
she would have been the one that would have known, and she's dead. Because Aelin killed her, unfortunately. So,
it was like maybe Baba Yellowlegs knew what was coming and knew that Aelin was going to save the world.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you're that girl. I can just kill you now. And then that prophecy won't come to be.
They also talked about how, like, Baba Yellowlegs knew the history because they believed that she was there for the history, like that she was that old.
Mm-hmm.
The Yellowlegs was an ancient. She knew things now lost to us. She ripped down the walls of the Kraken city herself. The legends claimed the slaughter was catastrophic. And then this is also where, like, the information about Rhiannon's Kraken curse and the place where this happened kind of comes into play. They talk about how Rhiannon had cursed the 3 matrons and threw them all of the iron teeth. And then she cursed the Yellowlegs herself, who gave Rhiannon the killing blow. Rhiannon being the last Kraken queen. And then Rhiannon swore on her last breath that we would win the war, but not the land. So basically saying, like, they were going to end up beating her, but she cursed the land so that even if they had won, like, it would be their downfall. And then after Rhiannon had died, this is when, like, all of the Kraken, or all of the children of, like, the Iron Teeth clans and the Yellow Teeth clans were dying because this curse was now, like, taking effect. Mm-hmm. The only way to break the curse is blood to blood and soul to soul. Together this was done, and only together it can be undone. Be the bridge, be the light. When iron melts, when flowers spring from fields of blood, let the land be witness and return home. Every Iron Teeth witch had pondered that curse for 5 centuries. We tried to break it. Aelin makes the connection of your parents, their union was made in order to break the curse. So their theory is that Manon is this combining of Kraken and Iron Teeth that should be able to break the curse because basically, like, her blood is that combination of the two. Mm-hmm. I want that to be true so bad. Please. Yeah. Let that be it. I do not wish for any other weird craziness. That sounds great. Yes.
Dorian also brings up a good point in this. Manon is going and, like, telling all this information, and Dorian goes, but Elena predates the Witch Wars by a millennium. Mm-hmm. The Eye had nothing to do with that specifically, right? And, of course, Manon doesn't really know. She doesn't say anything, at least. Aelin doesn't know either, but she does respond to Manon. Or no, she responds to Dorian, maybe now you understand why I found Elena just a bit difficult to deal with. Because she doesn't tell us anything. Ever. Yes.
Nope. Not until
clearly we're finding out more information, and it's...
Or when it's literally the last possible second. Those are the only 2 times that she actually provides information.
Yeah. Not. Oh.
Grand.
Yeah. We then go into one of like my least favorite things that feels very ominous and feels like it's gonna, you know,
Come back
not
later.
it's gonna come back to maybe bite us in the ass later, or something's gonna happen. But pretty much, Rowan is doing Rowan things. Aelin is back with Lysandra and Manon, so Gavriel and Fenrys find Rowan kind of take him to the side while everyone else is kind of busy doing other things.
Yeah.
And
chat. Super chill chat.
Yeah. They plead with Rowan to take Aelin away from this place.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a bad feeling about it. They don't like that. They pretty much say, like, we have currently in our midst, in front of us, 2 queens that cover 3 of the main races, mortal and immortal. Maeve has been waiting for someone to lead her to the keys after Brannon had died. Which is terrifying. So they don't know why Maeve is in this area. So as we know, Maeve sailed with her armies to Eelway. Nobody knows why. Now that Manon has given this information, Gavriel and Fenrys think that Maeve has known this whole time that these 2 players potentially have to come together, or there's something. Obviously, Aelin's going to be connected to Brannon in some way, so maybe Aelin's going to lead her to what she needs, and she knows that's in this general area because maybe Brannon had a connection to this area in some manner.
Yeah. They can sense that, like,
they're catching on to other things.
Very powerful and outside of their control or understanding has led Aelin and Manon to be in this spot, like, at this time. Mm-hmm. And that Rowan and Gavriel and Fenrys are like, doesn't feel good at all. Mm-hmm. You should just just take the safe bet, get her the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I think, although he doesn't say this, he just kind of is like trying to be like, well, how would you guys like know this? And I think in the back of his mind, he's like, there's no fucking shot that if I told her, we gotta go, that she'd leave. Oh, she's 100%. Not leaving. No way.
Yeah. They're pretty much pleading with him, and then Rowan also counters with like, is that why Maeve sent you here? And they're saying, no. We were not sent for this lock. We didn't know this existed. But now that all these things are just kind of lining up, they're really like suspicious of everything. Yeah. And they've been suspicious of Maeve since Maeve sent her, or pretty much since Rowan left, because she stopped telling them things.
And they also don't want her to die.
Yes.
They like her.
Yeah. They also let Rowan know that Rowan has been replaced in the cadre by Cairn. That's the only way I think to pronounce it. Is it Cain? There's an R in there.
They pronounce it Cain. I know.
They pronounce it Cain?
I'd have to look at the audiobook again.
Okay.
My brain says that it's Cain.
Like a
Cairn? Cairn might be right.
Like the thing that they stack rocks when you're hiking. Like that's what
Yep.
How it's spelled. It's spelled the same way. Anyway.
Cairn.
They mention that Cairn has become the new Rowan. But this guy is a piece of shit. A literal piece of hot garbage. He was pushed back from like leadership for many times and was like sent very far away because he's a kill first, ask questions later kind of guy. He is like very evil to his core, will kill everyone, does not give a fuck, has no allegiance to anyone except
takes
for
pleasure
Maeve.
In the suffering of others, not even just the killing of them.
Yeah.
It's great.
Like if Arabin was Fae, we have another...
And worse.
Yeah. Like tortures and kind of enjoys it. Like, not great. Yeah. Especially like if at some point Maeve gets any
that
keys.
Was in Dorian.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
It was great.
So, not great. They also
talk about
yeah.
Lorcan.
Mm-hmm.
They bring up the fact that, like, they still serve Maeve. Like, they have to complete their task, which is to kill Rowan. Or to kill Lorcan. But they're, like, debating it because Maeve doesn't usually execute people. Like, she also is like, nah, I'll make you suffer because you're immortal. You'll just sit there and suffer for, like, eternity.
That was
the
a
fact
huge
that
thing.
She wants him dead is weird.
Rowan
and
or
just,
Aelin,
like,
they don't really catch
dead.
on to that.
Gavriel says beheaded and burned. So, snuffed out completely. They do mention that, like, Lorcan and Rowan are the two most powerful Fae males. And they believe that he... I can't... Is it that...
They believe
they want him dead?
So, Lorcan and you are the most powerful males in the world. You forget Lorcan and Aelin can't even stand to be in the same breathing space. All we're saying, Fenrys explained, is that Maeve does not make decisions without considerable motive. Be ready for anything. Sending her armada wherever it is only the start. They've been questioning
they're not
Maeve
sure
since they've been with Aelin, and just kind of like the two of them on the side have been like, the fuck is going on here? Mm-hmm. Why were we sent to do this? This is very, like, even more suspicious that we need to kill Lorcan now instead of just bringing him back so that she can control him. Maybe she's realized that she's kind of... He feels these, like, little minor tugs, but, like, maybe she's... Her power over Lorcan, because Lorcan is so powerful, is a lot harder to, like, keep him in line. Which is why he can kind of go out and gallivant. I don't know, there's so much shit.
The last bit that they get to is Fenrys. Oh, this one hurts so bad. Mm-hmm. Fenrys says, kill me. If that order is given, kill me, Rowan, before I have to do it. And he's talking about if he gets the order to, like, kill Aelin, that he wants Rowan to make sure that he does not get the chance, that he doesn't want him to hesitate and, like, have to think about it. Fenrys, like, believes in what she's doing and, like, wants her to succeed, that he would rather that end be, like, swift and just don't think about it, just take me out if I have to do it, because I'm not going to be able to not do it.
Yeah. Fenrys responds, I'm glad you know that I got this time, that Maeve unintentionally gave me, that I got to know what it was like to be here as part of this. The lion was merely nodding in his agreement. So the two of them are just grateful that these two, they were on one path, and now they get to know Aelin. Yeah, they're gonna die.
Because
they're gonna fucking die.
They're like, oh, look at how fucking cute this is. I'm like, cool, great. Is it next chapter everything's gonna be on fire, or the one after that?
Yep.
I mean, even in the other book, they were like, Nesryn singing songs and, like, Chaos walking, and I'm like, cool, great. I love being on the upswing. This is so fun. Mm-hmm. Oh. We go back to Tower of Dawn now.
Yep. Only for a short bit.
So, yeah, this is, like, pretty short. They're still searching for the eggs. Nesryn, Sartaq, and Falcon go to try to retrieve the missing eggs, so they go kind of to where the spiders are supposed to be. I think it's Dagul.
Yeah, it's just the three of them that go. They leave Borte behind. I don't remember the exact reason. She wasn't too thrilled about it, but pretty much Mama said no. Hearth Mother said no. And Borte was like, all right, fine. So Nesryn and Sartaq get on Kadara, and this is where Falcon is a mouse and in her pocket. This is the scene.
So cute.
Which every time, the whole scene, anytime Nesryn like talks to him, she like, it's described that she like
He
opens her
pocket.
pocket and like talks into her pocket, or like
It's
he
so
peeks
present.
his head up to like figure out where they're going, and they're like talking to something or see something, and so she pats her pocket for him to like nuzzle back and like not actually make himself known, which I think is hilarious. I love that so much. I can't wait. Falcon was kind of suspicious like towards like the beginning of his like.
Yep, I like him now.
I like him now. I also can't wait till he meets Lysandra. Like, I just want him and Lysandra to like talk to each other and like be like, okay, so how do I do this? And she could just ask him a million questions because he's been doing this for a long time, and she just finally was able to do it. And I'm so excited. That's all I can think about. Like, okay,
It's
can I
gonna
skip
be
to that?
so
Can we
cute.
skip to the good part? Can we skip to the part where Lysandra and Falcon meet and they can talk about stuff, and then she could be like, look what I can do, and then turn into just a fucking
Turn
wyvern.
into a fucking sea wyvern too.
Yeah. Oh,
How'd you do that? Wait, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
They also end up having a conversation on this flight, which we're gonna tuck away for later, future information.
mm-hmm.
Sartaq can marry whoever he wants. That's cool information for us to have right now. Good.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna put that in our back pocket. Think about that later.
Yeah, I wrote this section as they're on their way to get the eggs. We learn that Sartaq's allowed to marry whoever he wants. Nesryn has a lot of questions for him and Borte about Borte.
Mhm.
And then they reach Dagul, which is the place they were going.
Yep. We
So-
get a little bit of information about like how the betrothal with Borte like kind of
Took
that
place,
Borte has like came to be, and basically what we learn is no one fucking knows what's going on.
Yeah.
They like have been fighting forever. Like they never got along. They got challenged. There was like a challenge that she won one time, and then there was another challenge that he won one time, and they've like
No, she won.
never-
She won all three.
she won
times.
both times.
Yeah.
She won
It's three
she won,
times,
like,
and the
all
one
of the
he, like,
challenges,
was
but like
throwing
he
or
kept
something.
challenging her.
Yeah.
And she's fucking pissed. And then they have like one conversation, just the two of them, where
She just like
leaves,
shows up
like,
one day in the middle of the day. No
Yeah,
one knows what's
like
happening.
totally randomly. They have a conversation. She leaves all pissed off, and then literally like I think a week later, like he reveals at something that like, oh yeah, and we're engaged
Oh, it was the
now.
third
and she's
event.
pissed, but then doesn't refute it or anything. So they're
Nope.
like different. Like no one knows what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Also, we don't know what the fuck's going on, but I do love this relationship a lot because
Yes.
it's like I like that they're
They
just
have their own
angrily
secret
engaged to
thing.
each other.
Yeah. They have one event
It's
that
great.
they
I love it so much.
kind of, they don't, what is it? They're like trials. And so it's trials to be the best or
Yeah.
whatever. And she wins after he tried to like pull some shady shit, but she still wins. He like cheated, quote unquote. The next one, he gets too close. And so she does the same thing he did the first time and still wins. And then they had this weird conversation. Then they go to the third one to do it again the third year. And he loses again to her. And then at the ceremony at the end where they're like giving her like, you're the best rider, or you're the best flyer, or whatever it is, his dad says, and my son will be marrying her. And you're like, and everyone's like, the fuck? What do you mean? And Borte's just like, yep. Not how I wanted to tell everyone, but yep.
And neither of them, yeah, because it was his father that like
Yeah.
declared it, and
Mhm.
neither of them looked like they were. It looked like it was a surprise for both of them that he did it, and then they were like arguing about it later in the hall. It's just, but she hasn't disputed it, but she hasn't embraced it either, and like they haven't set a date, so everyone's just kind of like they're engaged. I guess I don't know.
Who
I don't know
knows?
what's happening.
Yeah.
So they land.
Everything's
They land in.
dead.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
wait.
not great.
They didn't land yet. They're actually flying around, and they notice that everything around
get
where
there.
they're going is dead. Yeah. They get to the
Yeah.
place that they're going, and
They get where they're going.
Sartaq's like, Kadara, do like laps so that we can kind of see what's going on the ground before we just put ourselves in the middle of,
Yep.
spider territory.
everything's dead is real ominous.
Hmm.
And then they see something moving in the distance, and it's one of the hatchlings.
Yeah. They don't know. Kadara picks up on it, like, immediately, and they don't know.
Yep.
And Kadara, like, makes a sound. They always describe it as she screams, which is a weird way to describe a bird making a noise, in my opinion. But Kadara makes a bird sound. And every time, like, even when Kadara was in the field...
I don't know.
Yeah, screech would be better. When they're in the field, the sentence that where Kadara makes a sound, it says, Kadara screamed, and they could hear it. And I'm like, she's a bird. She didn't scream. I'm sorry.
Screech.
My wildlife is showing.
Mm-hmm.
So, anywho, that's my own little tidbit. She sees something. We get the idea that Kadara realizes that it's a hatchling before Sartaq and Nesryn do, because she's, like, making sounds like we have to go over there. Pretty much communicating to Sartaq, like, hey, there's a thing over there, we have to go there. And then Sartaq's like, yeah, go that direction. Right as they approach, obviously Sartaq and Nesryn now notice that it is a hatchling, and Kadara is like, I need to save that right now. Sartaq is kind of like, just describes like Kadara as moving swifter than he had anticipated her to go, because they didn't fully scope out the area. And just as Kadara is about to kind of like snatch the hatchling up off the ledge, Nesryn notices that there is a mammoth of a web that is just formed on the other side of the cliff where this little hatchling is. And she yells to say, watch out, or like, no, wait. And they careen right into it with the hatchling. So Kadara has scooped up the hatchling in her claws. Nesryn, Sartaq, and Falcon in pocket into web.
This big web.
And they fucking tumble to the ground.
Yeah.
Kadara kind of tries to wrap the hatchling into herself with her wings to take the brunt force of the fall. And Sartaq does the same thing with Nesryn. Which is also like, this prince just decided her life was worth more than his. Which, from all the other scenes, his reactions or actions towards other people, I was surprised that he acted this way, but I'm happy about it.
I'm not. He likes her too much.
Yeah.
He's been dropping all the hints.
Yes.
The hatchling kind of gets knocked out of Kadara's grip in the tumble.
Yeah.
And ends up being in front of like this large spider. And the large spider kills the hatchling. And Kadara like cannot do anything.
Yeah, she fell and she's very disoriented. She hit everything coming down. She can barely like get her brain to like function, get her wings to flap kind of thing. And they just see this hatchling get. That's a scene I didn't need. I think I would have been fine without the hatchling being just...
I know. Everybody hates animal death, okay?
Yeah. It describes it as like a crunch and blood, and I was like,
I wasn't gonna describe it. I just said she died.
She didn't die.
Okay. She died. It's very sad. They're trying to get Kadara to fly and leave. And Kadara's like still kind of stunned.
The whole time, Sartaq is begging Kadara to get up and fly. At no point is he begging Kadara to get up to take them away. He has already made the decision, like, we just need Kadara to live. Like, I need Kadara to live over myself, which also is, like, it gives that same, like, dragon and rider vibe of, like, I don't need to live, I just need her to live kind of thing. Where I'm just like, oh, his life, he just would rather Kadara still live, even if he's not going to.
And, like, Falcon tries to, like, come out of Nesryn's pocket to, like, try to shift and help, but, like, Nesryn doesn't want him to come out and get hurt. Apparently, he's been trying to shift into something bigger, but, like, the largest he's able to get is a big wolf. Like, he tried to shift into a rook, and he doesn't have the same, like, power.
Yeah. She doesn't want the spiders to see him.
Yeah.
So, like, if he's going to shift at some point, they all want it to be a surprise to them and them to be caught off guard. It's like their one little, we have a thing in our back pocket, hopefully to survive.
Sartaq is, like, still trying to get Kadara to fly. Nesryn's got her fucking arrows out, just beaming spiders left and right, trying to keep them all alive. One found their mark through one eye, and the other through the opened mouth of a spider. Fucking sick.
Nesryn's badass.
She's so great. Sartaq finally gets Kadara to go, and, like, as soon as he gets Kadara to go, he turns around to Nesryn and, like, just yells at him to run.
It just
yells
surrounded.
At her to run. Yep.
And that's where we end with Nesryn and Sartaq and Falcon. We end with them in the middle of just a world of... They've now just killed a bunch of spiders. So now the spiders are like, that's not okay. Guess what? They killed spiders, and Falcon didn't get his ears back. Clearly, they're not tied to him.
Did he kill the first spider? I don't think he did.
He didn't kill it. He killed the one spider at the tower.
Technically, he hasn't. No, I didn't. I thought that.
Oh, he wanted the kill. That's right. Yeah.
He wanted the kill, but I don't think he actually got it.
Yeah, Kadara got it.
I still don't think that he's killed a spider. I still think that he's not going to get his shit back unless he kills
the specific spider that cursed
that specific spider. But technically, we haven't even tested the theory yet. Been able to test the theory yet of if he kills a different spider, because he still hasn't got any kills on the board yet.
Yeah. He did
also
have
the fact that he can't transform into anything larger than a wolf is a little concerning if he's supposed to kill one of the spiders.
Yeah, that's not great.
It'll be fine. Maybe.
Yeah. He did at some point towards the beginning, like, the reason he went to the Hearth Mother in general was, like, maybe they can kill the spider on my behalf, like, and then it'll be fine. We have learned that part of his theory is not a thing. We still don't know if he kills the spider or a spider if he gets his ears back. And now we are at our final section of Empire
Now
Storm.
we're at Manon POV.
Yes. Anytime it's someone else's, I just write at the beginning, Manon POV. Lorcan POV.
The way that she writes is usually, like, it's very narrated. So it's not usually that you get, like, this is through this person's eyes specifically.
Yeah.
It's always fun, though, when we get that specific of, like, this is what this person is seeing right now.
Yeah.
Surprise, it's death.
Uh-huh. Yep. Manon could feel the pain of those who died here. They did not rest peacefully.
I don't think anyone right now, other than Chaol, in a place that doesn't feel like death.
Well, Chaol feels less like death than he did previously because a lot of the darkness has been pushed away from his insides.
True, he was the death that he felt.
Yeah. But
everyone else is not great at the moment.
Not wonderful, not great, not doing well. She notes that the people who dwelled in these lands did not meet an easy or pleasant end, which I think is something... I think it is cool having that as a sentiment through Manon's POV. That she, like, feels bad for them and could feel their pain and suffering. Considering if we go beginning of Manon's existence in our character development, she didn't give a shit about death. So we're having some character building.
The question that she asks Dorian in this conversation is so good. She asks him, she basically is like asking how she plans to get rid of all of them, how Aelin plans to like get rid of all of them and like banish those who weren't originally created in this realm. And she says, is there a way of weeding out who belongs and who doesn't? Or who will all those Volg-blooded be sent, or will all those with Volg blood be sent into that realm of darkness and cold? Because technically,
all of the witches
are byproducts of Fae and Volg. So, like, where does it end? It's such a good question. I love that she's the one that's asking it of Dorian specifically, too. It's so good for, like, both Dorian's character development and hers. Yeah. Because, like, do the spiders go back? Do the Volg go back? Do the witches go back? What about anyone who's Volg? And, like, how do you tell if a demon is in a Fae person or not? Like, how do you know who needs to get kicked out and who doesn't?
Yeah. She also presses him because, as we know, Aelin has kind of been leading us everywhere. Aelin has been our woman in charge. And Manon asks, why isn't it you, Dorian? Why aren't you the one that's in charge? You are just as powerful as she is. I have seen it repeatedly. And he pushes back because I was the one who did it. And he finally tells Manon that he was the one that killed his father. He was the one that broke the glass castle, and she was the one that stopped it from killing everybody.
He's trying to, like, correct her misconception that she has, because she's basically trying to say, like, that Manon doesn't trust that Aelin wouldn't do those things. Because Manon's current knowledge is that, like, well, she killed the Volg king, just kind of
killed your dad,
decided, and then, like, did the thing to the castle that you lived in, and now he's like, I see. Nope, that was me.
I did
that. So that would be why I do not wish to do it again. I do not want to be the one to make that decision, because I feel like I have already failed that task of, like, being the better person and not doing that. He's like, I've already been tested and I failed, in his head, at least. He doesn't want to be, like, tempted again, which is why he's perfectly happy to be like, nope, Aelin did the right thing after I fucked shit up. I would like to continue letting her make those decisions.
Yeah. He pretty much says, I did all of these bad things, so if I had the keys, wing leader, I have no doubt that I would do the same once more, but across the entire continent.
Ugh!
She asks him why, and he explains that it's because she died. And by she, we mean Sorsha. Because she died, and even before she did, this world saw to it that she suffered, and was afraid and alone. And even though no one will remember who she was, I do. I will never forget the color of her eyes, or the way she smiled, and I will never forgive them for taking it away.
Manon had no answer, and she knew he wasn't looking for one, but she said anyway, good.
She ignored the glimmer of relief that flashed across his face.
He's dark now. She's dark. It's great. It's like he was like this beautiful, cute, golden retriever boy, and now he's kind of like, you know, been traumatized a little bit. And she also was this, like, really evil, gross demon thing, and now they're just gonna meet in the middle, okay? Yeah. They're gonna meet in the middle, and they're gonna be traumatized and happy together. Please.
It's so good.
I love Dorian's character arc throughout this. I think it's one of the best ones.
I like his character change. Like, I like his development.
His character arc is perfectly executed throughout this whole fucking book series.
Yeah.
I think his and Lysandra's might be my favorite. Because you fucking hate Lysandra when you meet her the first time.
Yeah. I think it was a very easy switch for Lysandra for me.
I liked Dorian the whole time. I just felt bad for him in the middle.
I know he pissed me off in the first book, just like Chaol did. They both did.
Yeah, that
Book
one
I
just
didn't
was
like either of them. I was like, you guys are fucking little twats.
They're kids.
Yeah.
They
were
children.
Yeah, they were two
Quite
kids
literally.
that really didn't have. In that scenario, think of the two of them, Chaol had gone through the most shit of the two of them because he was kicked out by his dad. He was kind of like, you know, all of this shit. He had a lot of trauma, family trauma. So I think Selena could relate to him more because she also had a fucking ton of shit that she went through. I think now Dorian's trauma just came later.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he understands all this shit and like why she was acting the way she did, because he was starting to see, oh, yeah, my dad did this shitty thing and now I want to burn the world. No wonder she acted that way. Chaol just didn't see it that way. He saw it as like, yeah, I went through shit too, and here I am trying to be a better person. I think that's the only difference.
I'm remembering now that last chapter and this chapter of Empire of Storms is literally like the same shit that I was just talking about, where it's like, oh, we get a chapter of cute stuff, and then we get another chapter that's like, oh, look at all these cute little vignettes of like Dorian and Manon are having a fun conversation. There's a conversation that happens right after Dorian and Manon's conversation, which is one of my favorite things that happens in this entire series, and it's such a throwaway. Aelin looks at Manon, and she says, "What's your sword called?" Manon says, "Windcleaver." Aelin clicked her tongue. Good name. Yours? Goldrin. A slash of iron teeth as they were bared in a half smile. Not as good of a name. Blame my ancestors. She certainly did, for many, many things. It's like 5 fucking lines, and it's one of my favorite. Manon and her are just like, what you got? What are you working with over there?
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good.
I giggled.
And then they just go back to fucking having other conversation. That's it. This is the...
Yep, and then...
If they, genuinely, if this fucking makes a TV... If this is not in the TV show, I am going to have a mental breakdown. That has to go in. Please.
Yeah, pretty much at this point, they've arrived at their destination. They feel the power of the lock. They're like, we're gonna split up and go this way. Aedion goes one way, Gavriel, I don't remember. They all go in their respective
They all split up
directions.
to like try to find...
Manon, Aelin, and Rowan go together. And this is kind of when Manon and Aelin have their little
so good
tit for tat about their swords. And then they slightly split off. Manon goes one direction, Rowan and Aelin go another direction. They pretty much meet in the middle. Like, it's a circle. Mm-hmm. They go around and then meet at this, like, dais that they find, which has... At first, Aelin thinks it's an altar, and then they realize that it's actually a chest.
No, they don't realize. Rowan is being a little shit. Aelin muttered, "There's an altar. It's a chest," Rowan corrected with a half smile. "It's got a lid." Rowan.
Even better, she said.
Ugh. Also, just before this, Aelin does a thing that she kind of does all the time, where she says, she, like, smiled a bit as she thought, and then she casually says, "That sunrise that Mala appeared to you. What did she say exactly?" And he turns around and is like, "Why?" And then... nothing. And then they just don't fucking finish the conversation.
Yeah, it's later said, where did it go? It's somewhere in here after they realize this thing is, and she goes, we'll talk about that later. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure, we'll talk about that later. Are we sure?
Will we
actually
like,
talk
remember
about that
this
later?
thing? Remember this thing from earlier? Yeah, you're gonna need to remember it in a little bit.
Yep. He says why. She doesn't respond. her scent changes to fear and pain. Rowan grips her elbow and says, Aelin. And then they see the dais.
Look, an altar! Can we finish the conversation we were just on? I'm shocked that Rowan doesn't fucking press her and is like, wait, no, hold on. Why are you scared all of a sudden?
Yep.
Anyways, we're just moving on, I guess.
They then see Manon across the way in this room that they have now entered. Aelin is like, do not touch that. Manon's like, yeah, no fucking shit. I've been around a little longer than you, but sure, yeah, I won't touch it. They look at the lid of this chest and it's covered in word marks. And Aelin asks Manon if she had ever seen anything like that, and she had not. So the only real person that knows anything of word marks is Aelin. And she can't read them. She has very limited knowledge.
Some of them she's never seen before.
Yeah.
At all.
She also has the, like, remembrance of Nehemia. Nehemia had known how to use the marks, had been taught them, and was fluent enough in them to have wielded their power. Aelin had never asked how or why or when, but here were word marks deep within Eelway. Oh, no.
She says, should we throw a rock at it and see what it does?
Honestly,
No,
not bad idea, to be honest. If you think about it, word marks stop things. She used word marks to stop things, like, halfway through door frames to, like, chop their head off. So, like, you know, if a rock is going to stop mid-flight, maybe we know not to get closer to it.
Unfortunately, we don't find out, because just as that other conversation was interrupted, their investigation of this box is interrupted because Rowan senses Lorcan.
Well, he senses a pulse of power.
Yeah, he senses Lorcan's power specifically, though.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, he feels the pulse of magic go out, but he knows that it's Lorcan. And it's a warning signal. And this is where, like, the timeline is converging together. Yes. So Lorcan had sent out at the end of their chapter that pulse, or they had seen the Ilkin coming, and now it's like time is
we finally caught up to where Lorcan and Elide are.
Yep. And they see an aerial legion approaching. Manon breathes iron teeth. Rowan goes, no. Ilkin. 500 Ilkin.
How many? Oh, you know, just a quick 500. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's great.
Rowan is like, well, shit. Lorcan is close, and he has now told us he exists because some bad shit is happening. Lorcan doesn't want them to die, which is kind of nice. But it's really for his own benefit.
He still needs them.
Yes, he still needs them.
For now.
We flash back to Lorcan and Elide, and this is where we learn that Lorcan is running with Elide, and every, 30 steps is pushing out in every direction, just a beacon of his power, just like a little pulse, so that anyone that is nearby that knows magic or has magic will feel it. And he just keeps going. He is hopeful that he's hopeful that the dream team would be close. He has no idea where they are.
I think that's also the part of it too, is he knows that he's fucked if he can't get to them, because there's no way he can get all of them by himself, but maybe if he can get to them.
Keys aside, he didn't want to see the look on Elide's face if the Ilkin got there first, and they found whatever was left of the fire breather and her court.
Sad.
He's not just doing this for himself.
But it has nothing to do with whether he likes Elide or not. No.
No. In this chapter,
I think he's a little
bounce back.
He's a little less in denial than he has been. Yeah.
Oh,
because now we're all coming together. So now we're all in the same chapter. This is exciting.
Yeah. Aelin is realizing they have nowhere to go. They can't leave the lock. They still need to finish whatever it is. She also makes a note that Elena and Brandon are gonna have to fucking wait a minute, because I have another thing just in my face. They're like,
Yep.
you're on a time crunch. You need to do this. And she's like, there's just, I'm being attacked all the time. Maybe, like, give me a minute or two. Like, it might take a little. She pulls a big dumb and suggests to Rowan that she uses the word key. She's like, there's nobody around.
I don't think it's that big of a dumb. It's 8 against 500, and they're all flying at them. Like,
No. I think the big dumb is suggesting it to Rowan.
Oh, you want her to continue to go rogue and not tell anyone about her plans at all.
I don't think using it's a bad idea, but I think just being like,
oh, okay.
Hey, I think we should use this thing.
Yeah, because she knows Rowan's going to be like, over my dead fucking body.
If she brought it up to the large group of people, I think the large group would have said yes, and Rowan would have been over my dead body, and then maybe they would have used it. But
also, I love that she says, there's another way, and Rowan says no, and she says, there's nothing and no one out here. The risk of using the key would be minimal. Rowan says no, and that's final. Aelin said too quickly, you don't give me orders.
You will have to pry that key out of my cold, dead hands, is his response to her. Like,
yikes.
Okay. All right. He will fight her to take it away from her.
Also, another person now that's going to start fucking blaming Aelin for all of the shit that's happening. Aedion decides now's the time to fight with her about what she decided to do in Skull's Bay.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to send a message to your enemies about your power, Aelin. It seems Erewhon has sent his answer. You blame me for this? Aedion's eyes darkened. We should have stayed in the north. I had no choice, I'll have you remember. You did, Aedion breathed. You had a choice all along, and you opted to flash your magic around. What do you mean? These boys are pissing me off. Go sit up in the north silently.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Her response to him is, so I guess the your perfect stage is over then? Which I thought was such a great response to Aedion. Because in his eyes from the very beginning, she could do no wrong.
The two of them are fighting and Gavriel just goes, this isn't the time.
Maybe you guys should not. This is war, please.
Ugh. He then starts shouting at her about, like, where are our allies? Where are the armies? All we have to show for our efforts is a pirate lord who might very well change his mind if he hears about this from the wrong lips. This is not the time to be arguing about this right now. Aedion, okay? There's 500 Ilkin flying at you guys. Shut the fuck up and figure out a game plan.
Rowan, of course, is like, hey guys, I'm going to be... I guess I'm going to be the one in charge since this is happening.
I'll be over here figuring out what we're going to do.
If we're going to stand a chance at all, maybe we should get in a position of, like, the fact that we're going to be attacked momentarily. So Rowan immediately goes into, like, warrior captain mode and says, Manon, you go here. Here's a bow and arrow, some arrows. We're going to go here. Everyone is going to go into their respective positions, which is... Aelin is going to be at the head of the line because she's going to have first shot with her fire because we have to also tell Erewhon still, like, you keep sending these things, no matter how big they are, we're going to destroy them.
Aedion says, don't miss this time, and I want to punch him in the fucking face.
Mm-hmm. I ignored that part because he was pissing me off. So I probably
didn't.
Just, like,
he's pissing me off, so I'm sitting in my rage.
Rowan is going to be right behind her with Dorian next to him, which I think is awesome. Like, sick. I love that Dorian is now, like...
Dorian gets the number 2 spot.
Center.
Let's go!
I really think Rowan was deciding by letting the shield down if Dorian had full control over his power, if he was ready. And we're like, he's very ready. He's got this. Dorian is like... She has fire, but Dorian is fucking strong as shit, and I can't wait.
I'm excited to watch him, like...
Yeah, I'm so excited. So, then Gavriel and Fenrys are on one side, and then Aedion...
Lysandra's gonna go, like, fucking get the marshes all, like, riled up or whatever.
Yeah,
like, start making all the monsters in there.
There's only...
Coming.
what, 8 of them? 6 of them? 7 of them?
There's 8 of them.
There's 8 of them.
8 against 500.
So Lysandra suggests to Aelin, I can transform into bait, but bait for the marsh creatures so that if any of the Ilkin land on the ground, the creatures will start attacking them. Aelin's like, really smart. We need more numbers.
Go do that.
So she goes off, she transforms, does her thing. I will let you know, if you have not read this and you're really just kind of living vicariously through us, in this scenario, Lysandra is not going to get beat to shit. And I feel like in every other scenario that we've come in contact with Ilkin and
every time Lysandra changes form,
it actually, that plan of Lysandra stirring the pot and then getting back behind the line, it works. She gets back behind the line.
Yeah, we're good.
She's good and fine. I just need everyone. This scenario, I was like, I like all these parts except for Lysandra going past everyone and going to the front because I'm terrified for her. I love her so much and she's such a badass and I don't want to live in a scenario where she's getting fucking beat up by 2 sea wyvern that are 6 times her size. Like, I just,
She won anyways, though, because she's that cool.
She's the best. So she does that. She riles them up. She gets back behind the line, and that's their, like, cue.
Yep. As they're all, like, splitting off, Rowan, like, shouts to Aelin, and he just says to her, remember who you are every step of the way down, every step of the way back. Remember who you are and that you're mine. And she starts to plummet into her power. Aelin knew she had reached the former edge of her power thanks to warning bells in her blood that pealed in her wake, that pealed as she launched herself into the burning depths of hell. Queen of flame and shadow, the heir of fire, Aelin of the wildfire, Fireheart. She burned through each title even as she became them, became what those foreign ambassadors had hissed when they reported on a child queen, growing unstable power in Terrasen, a promise that had been whispered into the blackness. The pressure began to build in her head, in her veins, far behind, safely out of her range. She felt the flickers of Rowan's and Dorian's magic as they rallied the blasts that would answer her own. Aelin soared into the uncharted core of her power. The inferno went on and on. Unfortunately,
we're gonna switch back to Lorcan
detects. Lorcan detects pretty quickly, sort of, kind of what's happening.
Lorcan can feel their power.
Yeah.
Because, like,
that he and Elide are not on the right side of the safety line.
As they're running, he finally gets, like, line of sight of Rowan. Like, he notices Rowan's hair. And then he looks in front of Rowan. And it's Aelin. And as he's recognizing, like, oh, we're close enough.
Yep.
He can feel the power. And he states he feels like the power of fire, the power of, like, wind, and then he questioned ice. He's like, where is that coming from? That's not Rowan.
Because he can see all of them now. Like, he sees Dorian, he sees Gavriel and Fenrys, like, waiting. They're all just waiting for Aelin to go off.
He was grateful that his message got to them. He was like, clearly, they realized that that message was sent to them. They set up for an attack to deal with the Ilkin, which is great.
And they were, like, trying to get to them.
Yeah.
Also, at some point, Lorcan gives Elide Athral's ring while they're, like, I don't even know if it's on their way to, like, run to them or if it was before that. Anyways, maybe it could have been after they kissed. He's like, here, take this ring, put that on your finger, that I'm not going to describe to you what it does or what the purpose of it is.
She pushed back a strand of hair from her face, Athral's ring glinting on her finger. She hadn't questioned where it had come from or what it did when he slipped it onto her finger this morning. He only warned her to never take it off, and that it might be the one thing to keep her safe from the Ilkin and from Morath.
God damn it, it's so cute. But also, can you just tell her what it does? Just tell her what it does.
It's so cute.
Why is it that hard?
It's okay, he's doing the things. He's doing the thing. He's still not admitting. So yeah, he realizes
he senses it.
They're not in a great spot.
He recognizes it as hers too, because he had sensed it from Mistward.
Mm-hmm.
But he does say there was nothing compared to the power that now roared into the world. He now is like, oh shit,
this isn't great.
That's not good. He says he shouldn't have wasted the effort warning them, not when it was now likely to get him and Elide killed.
Lorcan, Elide whispered, and he didn't have a chance to think. He just fucking jumped on top of her and shielded her with his entire body. And then, so like he pretty much like put himself on top of her, the ground, like the back, like her back against the marsh ground, and then he created a shield around them with his power. Arrows hit their marks, and Aelin unleashed her power upon the Ilkin and them, because they were in the line of fire, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, actual fire. What's great is that Dorian and Rowan, or maybe it's Aedion. Aedion makes the like note that like even behind Rowan's shield, that fire was hot.
Yeah.
So, and that's the fire going away from them. Mm-hmm. So now we're thinking about Elide and Lorcan, fire's hitting them directly. Not great. Not a great scenario. I definitely was panicking. And I was like, I need to read this faster because I need to make sure that Lorcan and Elide are alive. I know they're gonna be, but like I need them to be okay. Because now I'm invested.
She lets out her blast, and it says the heart of the Legion didn't have the chance to scream as they were washed away in a sea of flame. Aelin was no savior to rally behind, but a cataclysm to be weathered. She's such a good line. The fire grew hotter, his bones groaning as sweat beaded on his brow. Ashes fell to the earth in a slow, steady snow. Mm-hmm. And then that's when, like, her power basically, like, her pace, like, starts to wane. And then that's when the ice and the wind, like, erupt overhead, and them coming in to, like, kind of fill out the rest. She had been born knowing the weight of her crown, her magic, had felt its isolation long enough before she reached adolescence. And that seemed like punishment enough, but there had to be a price. Nameless is my price. That's what the witch had said. Understanding glimmered at the end of Aedion's mind, just out of grasp. He fired his second to last arrow straight between the eyes of an Ilkin. One by one, their own foul-bred resistance to magic yielded to those bursts of ice and wind and flame. And then Whitethorn began walking into the firestorm, 50 feet ahead, toward Aelin.
Lorcan and Elide are being pelted by magic at this point. Not just fire. So fire, ice, wind. It's all...
Arrows.
They're all hitting him.
Probably falling bodies. Of the Ilkin.
Ilkin just splashing on the ground.
And he is just doing his goddamn best to keep
digging
the two of them protected.
Yeah, he's digging deep into his magic, which he did not have a chance to do. Like, obviously, Rowan and Aelin had time, and Dorian had time to, like, pull from their magic well. He didn't. So he's just, like, shredding through darkness, trying to, like, pull power up as much as he can to fight against this. As they're there, it's described that the water around them is boiling and fish are floating to the surface, which is terrifying because Elide's back is just against hot, boiling water.
Ground. I don't know.
Not great.
I'm sure Lorcan's protecting her.
Yeah. Wave after wave, the magic battered his power. A lesser magic might have been broken against it. A lesser magic might have tried to fight back and not just let the power wash over them. Not great.
He also makes a comment about, like, even if Erewhon got a collar on Aelin, he's questioning whether he would be able to leash her power. Like,
would that even contain it?
The power that she continues to display seems so large and awesome that, like, he does not even know if a collar could realistically contain her, which is wild. Lorcan's been around a long goddamn time. So anytime any of these, like, fucking 500-year-old fae males are like, what the fuck? I'm like, yes. She's terrifying and I love it.
So they spectate that all of this stuff is kind of, the power is going back to them. So, like, Rowan has stopped using his magic.
Yeah.
Aelin has stopped. Dorian has stopped. Everything's kind of cooling off. Even at that point, he didn't lower his shield, even after everything settled. He did glance over at Rowan and Aelin and noticed a flame crown on her head. And then as she touched Rowan's face to kiss him, a flame crown appeared on his head, which I thought was such a cool little scene.
Oh my god. It makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Unfortunately, then we go into this. Lorcan then knew that they were all drained of power.
You fuck.
And Lorcan, unfortunately, was so focused on Aelin that he lost track of Fenrys and Gavriel.
Thank fuck.
So, my theory, as someone who has not read past this point, is that Fenrys and Gavriel felt Lorcan's power shielding him and Elide, and as that went down, they were like, now's our time to get that guy over there who probably wants you dead. So, we're gonna just derail.
Also, just to point out, to wrap up, they killed the whole fucking Legion.
Yeah.
Like, all 500 of them, just fucking dead. And Lorcan and Elide are sitting there. Elide is like, is it over? And they realize... In his head, Lorcan says, given the heat with which the queen was kissing her prince, he wasn't entirely sure what to tell Elide. But she like sits up and sees, and they realize that the entire Legion has been killed. Not easily, but they've done it. Yeah.
What do we do now? Elide asks. We go say hello.
You fuck.
You're not on friendly terms? They won't attack me.
Well, Aelin and Rowan and Dorian might not attack you.
But this whole time, Gavriel and Fenrys weren't using their power.
They're under very different orders. I do love that, like, that whole page you're reading it, and it's like, you little fuck. Don't you fucking dare. And then literally the last line is just, Fenrys and Gavriel have magically disappeared. We're like, oh, it'll be fine.
Yep.
It'll be a happy reunion for everybody.
The two fae males that didn't use any of their power in this will still be able to hold back Lorcan a little bit. And as we know from the first attack where Rowan's magic was pulled out of him by Aelin, by the end of them getting to the side and Fenrys bringing her up, he already started to get some of his power back. So, like, I'm not worried about him getting his power back. Aelin needed to sleep for 3 days. Granted, she went all the way down.
Yep.
But Rowan's been around for a while. His recharge is a little quicker than hers, I think.
Yeah.
I also think Dorian probably has more power than he leads on to, because the fact that he did not move his hands and caught something really quick, I don't think he used all his power. I don't think Rowan used all his power. I think Aelin used all of hers.
I think Aelin's the only one that really used. Because they were prepared, but I don't think that there was too much that the two of them had to clean up. I think she took the brunt of it out on her own.
Yeah.
This is where I cruelly decided where this episode would end when I was splitting up all of the chapters. So that's it. Next episode, though, we get to see the Dream Team expand? Maybe? I don't know. Lorcan might die.
Yeah, there's a lot up in the air right now.
Yep. Elide will be fine, though. Elide
will be fine. I can't wait for Elide and Aelin to...
Elide and Aelin are gonna meet. It's gonna be so good.
Then we're gonna have the trifecta. It's gonna be Aelin, Elide, and Lysandra. We're just gonna have the dream three of them.
It'll also be like Dorian and Aedion and Elide, because they were all kids together with Aelin at the same time. So like, it's gonna be so fucking cute.
I want Aedion to recognize her and just pick her up and spin her around, and then Lorcan be like, "Don't touch my woman. Don't touch my woman.
Don't you touch her."
And then everyone be like, "What's that about?
What the fuck? Huh?
What's that about, Lorcan?" Yeah.
This is gonna be such an issue. Because Elide's gonna be like, "Don't kill him." And Aelin's gonna be like, "Fucking why? Why not?
I love him."
Oh,
maybe
fuck.
we need to discuss your choice in men. You've
Taste
been locked
in
in
men.
a tower too long.
Shit. She's not wrong.
My fake Aelin is not wrong.
She's not totally off base.
No.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for checking out the episode, and we hope that you had a good time with us. You can find us at the Smut Peddlers on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok for additional content. That's it. See y'all later.
Bye.